My fiancée wanted to meet with her ex before our wedding, just to feel noticed one last time. So I smiled, kissed her, and said, "Sure, honey. Have fun." She had no idea I was crafting a story that would unravel her fantasy thread by thread. Let me start at the moment everything flipped sideways, right there in our kitchen, where normal conversations used to happen. She stood by the island counter, sipping oat milk from a glass like she was some goddess of modern heartbreak. Her tone was soft, almost shy, but her words hit like a truck. "Before our wedding," she said, "I absolutely need to spend a weekend with my ex." I blinked. Not, "I'd like a new dress," or "let's elope," or even, "I'm not ready." No, she wanted a weekend getaway with her ex-boyfriend, so she could feel desirable one last time before chaining her life to mine in legally binding matrimony. And she said it like she was asking for extra guac. "Excuse me?" I asked, voice flat. I was cutting carrots for dinner, and I didn't even pause the slice. "That's army discipline for you. I want closure," she said. "I need to know I'm still wanted. I think spending the weekend with him, just to reconnect physically, one last time, it would help me enter our marriage clean." Clean. She said it like I was the one sullying things. Now, I've heard a lot of garbage in my life, commanders barking nonsense, corporate buzzwords at annual retreats, even Willow's modern love lectures from that other story. But this was a flaming dumpster fire of relationship logic. But I didn't yell. I didn't laugh. I calmly stood up, walked over, kissed her on the forehead like some actor in a scene I wasn't even cast in, and said, "Sure, honey. Have fun." Her eyes lit up like I'd just given her a trip to Paris. She smiled, ran off to pack, and in that moment, I saw the whole thing crystal clear. This wasn't about closure. It wasn't about love. It was about her ego, her control, her power play. And that's when I decided something important. She wanted to feel desirable one last time. I was going to make sure she'd never forget just how desirable I wasn't when she returned. While she was in the bedroom, joyfully stuffing lingerie into a weekend bag like a high schooler prepping for prom, I sat in the living room pretending to scroll through sports scores. In reality, I was making a to-do list. Not planning a wedding. Planning a comeback. 1. Cancel wedding venue. 2. Sell the ring. 3. Find a way to turn her fantasy weekend into a permanent vacation without me. She floated back into the room, suitcase in hand, humming like this was some Nicholas Sparks movie. I gave her a little wink. "Don't forget to pack sunscreen," I said. "Wouldn't want your past to get burned." She giggled, and then she left. Just like that. Hopped into her car, waved like she was going off to brunch, and drove away to relive passion. Now here's where it gets juicy. The ring? Gone within the hour. You'd be surprised what a custom engagement ring pulls in on the second-hand market when you say, "Nope, never worn. Just betrayed over brunch." Guy behind the counter looked at me like I was handing him a cursed artifact. I told him, "Nah, just a symbol of temporary delusion." Next stop, our wedding planner. Now, this lady, Veronica, always smelling like lavender and judgment. I told her, "The wedding's off. Bride want to try other flavors." Her eyes widened like I'd slapped her with a bouquet. "You're joking," she said. "Nope, but I do want the deposit back. That church aisle's going to stay empty, out of respect." She looked confused, borderline heartbroken, but professional. I got most of the deposit back. Not all, but enough to fund a little project I'd started brainstorming on the ride over. Operation Surprise Party. She was due back Sunday night. That gave me 2 full days. By the time she was off sipping wine and probably reconnecting with her ex, the same man who once sent her crying to my doorstep because he cheated on her with a girl named Trixie, I was in full execution mode. Her bridal gown? Folded carefully, boxed, and mailed to the address she accidentally left on a receipt. Guess who lived there? Mr. X. Guess who used to live there? Her ex inside the box, a wedding dress, a flyer for couples counseling, and a handwritten note. "You win. She's yours now. Hope it works out the second time around." Cruel? Maybe. But I was just getting warmed up. When she came back Sunday night, the house was dark. The porch light flickered, and the key didn't work. She tried it again. Then again. Finally, she rang the bell. I watched from the upstairs window, sipping whiskey like a retired villain in a thriller. "Baby," she called out, knocking. "Honey, not tonight, sweetheart. Not ever again." She stood there on the porch, duffel bag in hand, dressed like she was still drunk on nostalgia. I didn't rush to the door. Let her stew a bit. Let the panic of reality seep into her little fairy tale. When I finally opened the door, I didn't swing it wide like I usually did. Just cracked it, leaned against the frame, and gave her the kind of smile you use when you're watching a magic trick go horribly wrong. "Hey," she said, flashing that nervous "I know I messed up" smile. "He's acting weird." I nodded. "Yeah, that key's outdated. Much like your concept of commitment." She blinked. "What?" I opened the door wider just enough to hand her an envelope. "What's this?" "Just a little something I whipped up while you were busy feeling desirable." She opened it right there on the porch. Inside was a letter from my lawyer. See, while she was gone, I filed for a dissolution of engagement. Technically not a divorce, but just legal enough to ensure there was no claim to assets, the condo, or the shared savings account. She started reading, and her smile slid off her face like makeup in the rain. "Wait, what is this? What are you doing?" "Exercising my right to protect myself from voluntary stupidity," I said. She was silent for a beat. Then the clause came out. "You're being ridiculous. I told you. I was honest with you. And I was honest when I said, have fun. Doesn't mean I plan to wait for your return like a loyal golden retriever." She stared at me, mouth open. "You can't just do this." "I already did." Now here's the thing, people assume payback is loud, dramatic, explosive. Nah, real closure? It's quiet. It's measured. It's folding the laundry with her favorite playlist playing while the movers box up her things. I had her essentials stacked neatly in a suitcase behind the door. Makeup bag. Shoes. That weird robe she always wore while watching baking shows. "You can crash at your ex's for a bit," I added. "You two are close now, right? Rekindled and all." "You don't mean this," she whispered. "I meant the proposal. I meant the wedding plans. I meant forever. You were the one who redefined the terms, sweetheart. I'm just honoring your updated rules." She tried to push past me. I stepped in front of the doorway, calm as a monk. "Where am I supposed to go?" "Not my concern anymore. This is still my home." "Nope. It was our home. Then you took a weekend trip back to before us. So now I'm living in after you." She stormed off with that bag dragging behind her like a broken dream. I watched her tail lights fade out the driveway. And let me tell you, that was the quietest the house had felt in months. But we weren't done yet. Oh no. You see, she had one little secret she thought I didn't know. And I was about to expose it. By Monday morning, the silence in my house was downright therapeutic. I brewed a fresh pot of coffee, took a long sip, and booted up my laptop. I had something important to do, something she never expected. See, before her romantic little exile, she had this habit of leaving her tablet on the kitchen island. She'd use it for recipes or social media wedding junk. Thing is, she never logged out of her accounts. And I'm not the snooping type, but when a fiancé tells you she's off to reconnect physically with her ex, all bets are off. So the night she left, curiosity and fury became drinking buddies in my brain. I opened her tablet, tapped open her messages, and what did I find? Photos, messages, screenshots, voice notes. The whole highlight reel of her affair with Mr. I still live with my mom. There was even a little selfie from the motel mirror with the caption, "One final trip before saying I do." Classy, right? But here's the kicker. It wasn't just disloyalty. She was openly talking about it in a group chat with her friends, sharing the details like it was some Bachelor episode. There was even a meme one of her girlfriends sent of a burning wedding dress with the caption, "When you know the groom's too boring to light your fire." I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my drink glass. Now, like I said, I'm not into crossing legal lines. I don't leak private stuff or drag people's names through the mud. But quiet consequences? That's where I thrive. So here's what I did. I created a wedding website, the kind meant to keep guests in the loop. But instead of our love story, the homepage read, "Why the wedding's off. A few honest reflections." Below it, screenshots of the texts. Nothing graphic, just the conversations. Her giddy confessions. Her laughing at how he'll never know. Guess what? Everyone knew now. Friends. Family. Even the pastor we booked. I didn't even have to send out an announcement. Word spread faster than a wildfire in July. One of her bridesmaids messaged me. "Jesus. I had no idea. She told us you were emotionally distant. That you knew and were okay with it. I'm so sorry." Yeah, so was I. But the apology tour didn't end there. Turns out her job. Yep, she worked at a marketing firm, frowned heavily on inappropriate conduct tied to professional image. And someone, not naming names, forwarded the website link to HR. Her little weekend of desire had now cost her a wedding, a home, and probably her job. By midweek, she was calling from some unknown number. Left a voicemail that started with, "Hey babe," and ended with a sob. "I didn't think you'd react like this. I was just trying to be honest." "Sure you were, princess. But this isn't the movie you thought it was. This is reality, and in reality, if you burn the bridge, you don't get to march back over it." The knock came at 7:42 p.m. sharp. I was on the couch, feet up, watching an old Western, because irony matters, and I already knew who it was. No one else knocks like that. 3 taps, pause, then a soft, "maybe he's not home" rhythm. I muted the TV. Another knock. I let her stand there. She knocked again. "Noah." Her voice was softer now. Less smug. Less sure. "You ever see a raccoon try to get into a garbage can after someone's bolted it shut?" Same vibe. I opened the door slowly. She looked different. Same red coat, same handbag. But her hair was messy, eyes puffy. Like someone finally realized the fairy tale carriage had been a rusted-out Civic the whole time. "Hey," she whispered. "Hey," I replied, calm as a coma. Can we talk?" "Sure," I said, stepping aside. "There's a chair on the porch." I wiped it down just for this moment. She blinked. "You're not letting me in?" Didn't let the raccoon in when he came back for the trash either. She sat, slowly. I stood in the doorway like a sheriff with the town drunk. "Now, allow me to introduce Tyler, my neighbor and best friend since college. He lives 2 doors down and had been watching this soap opera unfold like it was live theater. Should I come over?" He texted me 5 minutes into her arrival. "Stay ready, just in case she gets ideas." Tyler replied with a thumbs-up emoji and the words, "locked and loaded." Metaphorically. Back on the porch, she started talking. And by talking, I mean rebranding the betrayal as some sort of personal crisis. "It wasn't really about him," she said. "It was about me. I needed to know if I could let go of my past. And I know I hurt you, Noah. But I came back because I realized, you're the one I want to marry." I studied her face. She actually believed this speech would work. That I'd break into tears, scoop her into my arms, and yell, "To hell with self-respect, come home." "You wanted closure," I said. "You closed the door." "I just locked it." She frowned. "You're not even willing to talk about it?" "Oh, we're talking. Just not with matching wedding bands anymore. My dad wants to talk to you." She said. Yes, Edward Delacroix, her father. Picture a country club membership wearing boat shoes in judgment. He hated me since day one, not because of who I was, but because I wasn't legacy enough for his little princess. He's mad about the website, she added. He should be mad you needed a test drive before the wedding, I replied. Tell him to draft a review. She actually huffed, like she was the victim. Now here's where it got delicious. I opened a manila folder and pulled out a glossy 8x10 wedding photo. Her friend Allison had dropped it off. She'd found it in a shared cloud drive, scheduled for social media posting the day after the wedding. Pre-scheduled memories, they called it. I handed it to her. This was supposed to go live the morning after our wedding, I said. Cute caption too, the beginning of forever. Now it's the beginning of you explaining to all 174 people who liked it why it's gone. She stared at it, lip trembling. You're mistaking consequence. She stood, eyes blazing. This isn't over. For you, it isn't, I said. For me? It was over the second you called infidelity closure. She left in a swirl of rage and cherry blossom perfume. But something told me she'd be back. Not because she loved me, but because no one else would tolerate her brand of ego-fueled chaos. And I was already planning how to handle next step. 3 days after her porch performance, I got the official summons, brunch at the Indigo Fig, her father's favorite overpriced nest of quinoa and judgment. You haven't lived until you've eaten scrambled eggs served on a tile while a man in a scarf calls you son, with the same tone you'd use for a rat in your pantry. And I knew exactly what this was, a cleanup mission. They weren't here to make peace. They were here to do what the Delacroix family did best, rebrand the disaster and pin the blame on someone below their tax bracket. I arrived early, dressed in the suit I'd planned to wear at the wedding, because Petty has a wardrobe and it's tailored. Edward Delacroix walked in with all the grace of a man who hadn't been told no since 1974. My ex-fiancée was 2 steps behind him, wearing white like she was trying to cosplay innocence. Noah, Edward said, extending a hand. Son, I didn't take it. Edward, we sat. He ordered for everyone, of course. That's his power move. The waitress asked what I wanted. Edward cut in. He'll have the shakshuka. Actually, I said, I'll have the steak. Rare. The cow should still be mooing. The waitress smiled and walked away. Round 1. Mine. Now here's where things got bold. Edward folded his napkin, leaned in, and said, "Let's discuss damage control. We can agree this whole thing got out of hand. But it doesn't need to ruin reputations." "Whose?" I asked. "Yours? Hers? Or the guy she had her little reunion tour with?" He didn't flinch. "We all make mistakes. But men of our stature know how to contain them." That was his way of saying, "We sweep this under the rug, you disappear quietly, and my daughter doesn't look like she belongs on an episode of that reality show about infidelity." "You mean reputational control?" I replied. "Funny thing, Edward, I'm not the one who deceived, bent the truth, and asked to test someone else's bed before settling into mine." She piped up for the first time. "It wasn't like that, Noah. You're making it sound worse than it was." I slid the envelope across the table. "This is for you." She hesitated. Opened it. Inside, a printout of the group chat with her friends. The jokes. The memes. The final ride comments. The full digital obituary of our relationship, color-coded for dramatic effect. "You're sick," she whispered. "How did you even get this?" "You left your tablet unlocked." "Rookie move." Edward looked between us. "This isn't necessary. We're here to move forward." "I already did," I said. "The wedding is canceled. I've moved out of our joint lease. Her things will be boxed and shipped. I'm not paying a dime for the venue, the catering, or the ring, since it was sold to fund my emotional damages." He blinked. "You sold the ring?" "Yep. Took a picture of it spinning in a pawn shop tray. Want me to send it for the family album?" She was silent, jaw clenched. Then I dropped the final card. "Also, I emailed this to the venue, the photographer, the DJ, told them not to expect us. They were surprisingly sympathetic. Apparently, this happens more often than you'd think." Edward's face turned a strange shade of prune. "You told vendors?" "Transparency's the best PR, Ed." The check came. I paid. On their dime, because why not use her father's emergency card one last time? As I stood to leave, Edward said, "You'll regret being so petty. This will follow you." "Only if I let it," I said. "But see, I walk away clean. You're the one stuck with her." I left them there, Edward staring at the bill, her staring at the remnants of her social crown, now tarnished and tilting. On my way out, the hostess smiled at me. "Rough brunch?" "Not at all," I said. "Best damn steak I've ever had." And just when I thought I'd tied a neat little bow on this disaster, the ex called. Not my ex-fiancé. Her ex, Troy. The guy she ran off to feel desirable with. He found my number, probably through one of the shared mutuals who watched the drama unfold like a mini-series, and called me around 9:17 p.m. I answered, because I'm me, and I knew whatever this was, it was going to be hilarious. "Hey man. This is gonna sound weird. This is Troy." I smirked. "Troy. Of the One Last Ride fame." He sighed. "Look, I didn't know she was engaged. Not until halfway through the weekend. Interesting time to discover that. Was it before or after the hot tub?" There was a pause. "Yeah, I deserve that. Look, I'm not calling to start anything. I just wanted you to know, she told me you were okay with it. That it was some kind of weird agreement. I let that sit for a second. She told you I approved the trip. Basically said it was an experimental phase. Some spiritual open love thing. I bought it. At first. You also bought dinner, the hotel, and apparently her fake tears. Congratulations." He groaned. "I got played too, man. She left here like she was the one who'd been hurt. Told me I used her, and she needed space to find her real path. Let me guess, that path leads back to me?" He snorted. "Yeah, and probably back to her dad's house after that. Now here's where things took a weird turn. She's spiraling, dude," Troy continued. "I don't even think she wanted to get married. She wanted to win. She wanted you as a trophy. And when she realized you weren't playing her game anymore, she started losing." Exactly. I thanked him. Not because I needed closure, but because hearing it from someone on her side of the train wreck was validation I didn't know I needed. The next morning, my inbox held a surprise. An email from a woman named Amber, one of her bridesmaids. "Hi Noah. I know this might be awkward, but I want you to know I never supported what she did. In fact, I have screenshots she deleted from our chat. If you want them, I'll send them. I hate how she's trying to make this your fault. Amber, the only bridesmaid who ever looked uncomfortable during fittings, who once told me, 'You sure you're okay with how fast this is going?' Now she was offering the full gossip archive. I said yes. What she sent me was a goldmine. archived group chats, previously deleted posts, and even messages about planning to charm the wedding photographer just for the thrill. Screenshots showed her dismissing the idea of typical married life, saying she wanted to enjoy a fun, independent phase before settling down. Hot girl era, huh? So I did what any man with receipts and a wounded but wired sense of humor would do. I sent it all, anonymously, to the editor of a popular wedding podcast that had featured our engagement photos months earlier. Subject line? Update on that. Love that last episode. Spoiler. It didn't. No names. No faces. Just facts. Just truths. By week's end, my ex-fiancée was on her third emergency social media break, and Edward Delacroix had allegedly threatened to sue a florist for emotional distress caused by peonies. Me? I was finally sleeping 8 hours. But the cherry on top? I got invited to be a guest on that podcast's next episode. Their theme? The wedding that wasn't. When the groom calls checkmate. When the podcast team from Vows and Fallout emailed me a link and said, "Be ready to talk freely," I poured myself a stiff drink, adjusted my collar, and set up my camera with the lighting of a man who's ready to go full HBO docuseries. Let's set the stage. The episode was titled "The Groom Who Said No and Meant It." Subtle, right? The hosts, two women named Trina and Mallory, were a mix of bubbly curiosity and sharp sarcasm. Think morning show energy with courtroom precision. They didn't come to coddle. The interview started light. "So, Noah, what was the first sign something wasn't right?" I sipped my drink. She told me she needed a weekend with her ex to feel desirable. I assumed she meant a therapist. Turns out she meant Troy. Trina choked on her coffee. Mallory leaned in. "You didn't kick her out then in there?" "Oh, I did one better," I said. "I let her go. Then I changed the locks, sold the ring, canceled the wedding, and uploaded the receipts. They ate it up. By the time I read a snippet from her group chat, where she joked about testing the photographer's stamina, before Vows, Mallory was muttering wow. But the real gold came after the show. See, apparently someone forwarded the episode to Edward Delacroix's lawyer, a man named Calvin Pierce. A polished sort, always dressed like he's about to lecture a university on tax fraud. He'd been CC'd on several wedding contract emails. And bless him, he hit reply all when he shouldn't have. His message? Let's prepare for fallout. His leverage is more damaging than we assumed. She admitted infidelity, and the audio clips could be problematic if circulated further. Suggest fast settlement if this escalates. Problematic. Leverage. Settlement. I nearly framed that email. But before I could decide whether to print it on parchment or tattoo it across my ribs, I got another message from the wedding planner, Veronica. Subject line: "You won't believe what she just tried." Turns out, my ex, still trying to salvage the scraps of her pride, asked Veronica if she could reuse the venue for a girl empowerment brunch featuring custom floral arrangements and a playlist titled "Men Are Optional." She wanted to spin the canceled wedding into a launch party for a healing collective. I asked Veronica what she said. Her response? I told her to heal elsewhere, preferably outside city limits. God, I love that woman. But now? Mediation day was coming, and I planned to show up not with anger, but with an audience. Because Edward would be there. So would she. And so would a court clerk I'd quietly hired to transcribe the whole thing. I arrived at the law office 15 minutes early, not because I was anxious, but because I wanted to watch them walk in. The firm was one of those glass-walled fortresses with furniture so modern it begged you not to sit on it. I wore a navy suit, the same one from the podcast interview. Clean, sharp, unapologetically expensive. Power suit. Confidence cologne. No ring. Just a folder under my arm and that little envelope I'd been saving. First through the door, Edward Delacroix, striding like he owned the damn building. Behind him, her, hair done, lips painted, pretending this was some civil meet-up between equals. She wore white again. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Wrong aisle, sweetheart. You're at mediation, not a wedding. Her gaze was sharp enough to slice through steel. Edward let out a grunt. The receptionist shot me a look that said, yikes. They led us into a sleek room with leather chairs, a pitcher of lemon water, and a box of tissues. That last one? The mediator introduced herself, Joanna, all professionalism and quiet control. A woman used to navigating couples screaming over couches and custody of golden doodles. We're here to discuss asset disputes, defamation claims, and potential emotional damages. I nodded. Sure. Let's unpack those boxes one at a time. Edward jumped in first. My daughter has suffered reputational harm due to the public distribution of private messages and implications made on a very public podcast. I raised a finger. Let's stop right there. The messages weren't private. She shared them with a group chat. The screenshots were submitted anonymously, without names or images. No lawsuit would survive discovery. Joanna leaned toward him. He's right. You'd have to prove the content was defamatory and identify the sender. Edward's jaw clenched. Score one for me. She spoke next. Voice soft, as if we were strangers on a train. I just want peace, Noah. I think we both do. This whole thing got out of control. Agreed, I said. Especially when you left for a final romp and came back asking for forgiveness like it was a gas bill. She shifted uncomfortably. Silence. Look, I'm not here to sue anybody. I'm not even angry anymore. But if you think I'm going to pay for this fallout or apologize for defending myself after being publicly betrayed and ridiculed, you're living in a movie. Edward tried again. There's still damage. Her career. She damaged her own career, I said. You can't cause the chaos and then act shocked when there's a mess. Joanna turned to her. Ms. Delacroix, do you wish to request financial settlement or damages? She looked at me, her eyes filled with the one thing she'd tried to avoid this whole time, humility. No, she whispered. There's nothing left to claim. For the first time, she seemed small. Joanna nodded. Then this concludes our mediation. Mr. Taylor Noah, you're free to go. I stood, smoothed my suit, and looked at both of them. Next time you want to burn someone's house down, maybe don't start with the guy who built it. Then I left. On my way out, the receptionist gave me a wink and slid me a mint. You've got fans, she whispered. 3 months later, life didn't just go on, it leveled up. The apartment was new. Sleek, warm, modern. Quiet mornings returned. No arguing over brunch spots, no side eyes about emotional labor. Freedom? It didn't taste like revenge. It tasted like fresh coffee and silence. And I wasn't alone. Turns out, life had a twisted sense of humor because Amber, her ex-bridesmaid, the one who sent me the leaked screenshots, started messaging me again. It began with thank you notes, then coffee, then mutual eye rolls over wedding culture. One night board games, she laughed and said, you know, I always thought she didn't deserve you. She treated loyalty like a party favor. I chuckled. Yeah, well, she returned it unopened. We weren't rushing anything. But there was something refreshingly honest about it all. No secrets. No one last weekends. Just presence. Then came the voicemail. Late one Sunday. I just stepped out of the shower, phone blinking on the counter. One missed call. One voicemail. From her. Curious? Yes. Surprised? Not really. I played it. Hey, Noah, it's me. I don't even know why I'm calling. Maybe I do. Look, I saw that photo of you and Amber at that Veterans Gala. You looked happy. Really happy. She paused. You could hear her try not to sniffle. I guess I always thought you'd. I don't know, wait. Or at least, be more broken. But you're not. You're thriving. And I'm. Another pause. I messed up. Not just with you. With myself. I let the worst parts of me win. And I guess I thought I could fix it with one bold move, just one weekend of freedom. But you were never the cage. I was. And then, as if reading her own obituary, she ended with, anyway, you don't have to call back. I just wanted to say sorry. For everything. Click. I stared at the screen for a long moment. No rage. No tears. No urge to call back. I walked over, grabbed my drink, and sat down across from Amber. She glanced up from the couch. Everything okay? I smiled. Yeah, just someone finally learning what consequences taste like. Bitter. Served cold. With a hint of nostalgia. We laughed. And just like that, the story was done. Not with fireworks. Not with a grand speech. But with the quiet dignity of a man who walked through fire, got burned, and came out cleaner than he ever was before.